Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, then you know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to dive into topics related to living the intentional life. And this week's spread asks us to reflect on who we are. So let me ask you, who are you? Who is the person who is, when you are open to the powerful flow of intention and to experiencing the world? Who are you when you are the powerful creator that you are? Who are you when you remember that you are an eternal, non-physical being having a human experience? Who are you? That is the person, the individual, the entity that I am addressing right now. Who are you? This week's Tarot and Oracle spread is asking us to reflect on the diversity that we are as a collective and the diversity that we are as individuals. So, if this topic is interesting to you, and I hope it is, because what could be more interesting than the magnificence that you and I are? Then stay tuned. We're going to take a look at the spread. It's a gorgeous spread in just a moment. This is a beautiful spread, isn't it? And if you're curious about the cards, the decks, as usual, there will be a short clip at the end of this video giving you the names of the decks and the creators. Unfortunately, one of these decks is out of print, has been out of print for a while, and I apologize for that. But the others are in print and I believe readily available. So in the description box below, there will be links to the decks that are available. So if you're curious about looking at them more closely, if you're interested in purchasing one or many of them, you can go down there. And just a reminder, I get no money from those links. If you go and purchase them, there's no additional fee. I'm not getting a kickback. I'm just giving you that information for your convenience. So we got the whole spread laid out and you just got a peek at it. And you saw that there is a group of oracle cards in the center, which gives us the main idea, the main theme, the thesis of this week's spread. And around those oracle cards, there are 4 questions on inquiry cards, and each one of those inquiry card questions is answered by 2 tarot cards. So what we are going to do is focus on the central oracle spread first, and then we'll move into the questions. Let's look at the oracle cards. So, what do we have? Again, we have 5 cards for the oracle section of this spread. And if you have seen the video from last week, you might have noticed that 2 of these cards have shown up again. Now, this is a very interesting deck to me, and hopefully to you as well. This is a deck based on the periodic table of elements, which I used to love. I don't know if you know this about me, but when I was in high school, probably my best subject was chemistry. I loved the idea of, well, the truth of the periodic table of elements, that each one is shaped differently. I loved studying the way that the electrons moved in different patterns and different shapes around the nuclei of each of the elements and how they interacted with each other and how we visualized them. I loved all of that stuff in high school, and I was passionate about it then. So this deck speaks to that inner teenager of me. And you might be thinking that 2 cards showed up twice in a week, one of them in the exact same position. Did this guy even shuffle the deck? How many cards are in this deck? I shuffled the deck. There are over 100 cards in this deck. So, for especially that one card to be lying in the same place 2 weeks in a row, this deck is trying to remind us of a very powerful message, something that bears repeating. And I agree, this message bears strong repeating. It speaks to who we are. Who are you again? We are eternal, non-physical beings having a human experience. And that's what this central spread is reminding us of. Who are we as non-physical beings in these beautiful, wonderfully manifested human bodies in this abundant and amazing physical universe of so much and so much to explore and learn. The card that repeated, now, okay, just a moment. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we have 5 cards. The central card is the Ether card. Now, I think I mentioned that I've got these laid out in 5 elements. Typically in Western philosophy, in Western alchemy, there are 4 central elements: fire, air, water, and earth. And then a 5th one of ether. Ether, which represents spirit. So the central card of the 5 is that ether card. It's the spirit card, who we are as spirit. Above it, there is a fire card. Fire, passion, creativity, sexuality. Below is the water card, emotions, intuition, the unconscious. To the left, I hope this is left for you, the left is the air card, our thoughts, our ways of communicating. And then to the right is the earth card, the physicality of us, and also the work we do. So this week I'm going to match the cards a little bit more closely to the elements. And let's start off with that central card, the central spirit card, because I believe it's very important for us to remember, especially as it came up twice, 2 weeks in a row. And it is beryllium. Do you know beryllium? Beryllium is not one of those elements that we talk about a lot, but it is a wonderful, wonderful element and a wonderful message to this card. What do we see? We see a woman upside down, balancing on a sphere. Now, her back is beautifully arched and her gown is flowing with the curvature of her legs, and we see a person in wonderful, active, dynamic balance. Now, a lot of the times when we think of balance, we think of something a little bit precarious or something fixed, something that is absolutely balanced. We think of as being fixed. But nothing in this universe is fixed. There is no fixedness in this universe because everything is in motion. Everything is in expansive motion at incredible speeds through this universe, around the galaxies. Nothing is fixed in this universe. From the macro to the absolute micro, to the subatomic, nothing is fixed. Everything is in motion and energized and bursting with life, And how could we be anything less than that? So this is the card, again, of dynamic balance. And it reminds us that that's who we are. Beryllium, strong and flexible. And as eternal spiritual beings in these beautiful bodies, as our spiritual beings, we are absolutely strong. We are infinitely strong and infinitely flexible. How could we be anything less? We would need immense strength and immense flexibility to be having these human experiences, to move with the powerful flow of our intention. Because our intention is not like a straight highway going through a desert. without any deviation. The powerful current of our intention moves in concert with the intentions of others, and we flow together and we flow apart and we intermingle and we disperse and we move in different directions. There's a wonderful dynamic flexibility to our existence in this universe. And Beryllium is here to remind us of that. As spirits, we are all of that. And we are strong. Whether we allow our strength to shine or not, we are strong. Do you feel strong? Because you are. You are. You are absolutely strong. And when we feel weak, it's because we are cutting ourselves off from our strength. That is always there and always available to us when we're not fighting against it. Look at a baby. A baby born into this universe is absolutely powerful. Think about that for a moment. A baby born into this universe is absolutely powerful. Can you see the truth in that? Yes, it calls others to care for it. No, it cannot lift a 100 kilogram boulder. That's not as important strength as the strength of the spirit creating the body of a baby. Co-creating that body of a baby. Beryllium is the card of the ability to endure extremes, which is both a blessing and a curse, I believe. Not a curse like, I don't know, the Christian idea of being cursed out of the Garden of Eden, not that kind. Nobody is doing it to us. Not that kind of curse, but a self-created curse. Because we are able to endure such extremes, we're not as careful as we might be. Let's start with the idea of temperature. And we've learned a lot about temperature and our ability to manage it in our environment. Yeah? We've mostly learned how to keep ourselves warm in winter and cool in summer, much better than we were able to do 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Our ability to manage the temperature in our environments has increased exponentially. And so we manage our thermal environment. We don't generally put ourselves in the great extremes that we used to do. Unless we're out having an adventure, and then we are deliberately putting ourselves to an extreme for the experience of the extremes. Yeah, climbing to the top of Everest, for example, or the Himalayas, or K2, those very, very cold, extreme conditioned places. That's not my thing, but some people enjoy putting themselves in those extremes, and it's a deliberate choice. And they know that they can come back into an environment that is more controlled and will bring themselves back. Now let's look at the emotional extremes, for example. We haven't learned enough about that yet. We still create a much broader range of extreme emotions for ourselves than we perhaps need to. And we do. We create our emotional experience. We do. And we haven't quite learned how to manage that, as well as we've learned how to manage the temperature in our environment. Because we haven't developed, perhaps, we haven't been taught. Fortunately, there are people who can teach us out there. There are counselors, there are psychologists and psychiatrists that we can take advantage of. And I highly recommend taking advantage of these professionals who can teach us how to manage our emotions better. And it would be wonderful if we had that kind of education when we were children or in school. Like we got teachers in elementary school teaching us other things. If we were taught how to manage our emotional lives so we didn't subject ourselves to the extremes that we subject ourselves to the extreme joy and the extreme suffering, emotional suffering that we expose ourselves to. If we were able to learn that, if we were taught how to manage that, maybe we wouldn't expose ourselves to such extremes. We'd limit our exposure to the negative and be able to have a higher emotional experience in these physical bodies. Instead of ranging from joy to depression, maybe we would be able to hover somewhere around hope and dip down to perhaps irritation and then move up to absolute bliss. And then move in between those new extremes. We don't want a changeless environment. A changeless environment would be stagnation and limiting to the point of perhaps death, which doesn't exist in this universe. But we don't have to expose ourselves to the extremes that we do. But we do because we know that we can endure them. And maybe if we weren't able to endure them so much, maybe we wouldn't expose ourselves to them as frequently. However, who knows? If we've learned to adapt to a higher range of emotions, maybe what we were considering irritation now, 1,000 years later, would be absolute fury, because we've moved up to a higher range of emotional experience. Maybe. I can't predict that yet. However, we can survive, and perhaps we do survive a little bit more than we need to. Now, Beryllium is also the card of amplifying the virtues of others, amplifying the good points of others, which is another reason we came into these physical bodies, to co-create. We are here to shine the light of love and joy on each other and bring out the best in each other. Amplifying the virtues, the beauty, the harmony, the joy of each other. Because we are each individually magnificent and beautiful creatures in this universe. Do you know that? Do you know that you are a magnificent and beautiful creature? Do you think that I am a magnificent and beautiful creature? Do you know that that's not important? It's not important to my understanding. No matter what you think, my opinion is going to be my opinion. And my opinion can range from I'm a beautiful, magnificent being to I am a worm and no man, as Luther said. And that is not dependent on other people's opinions of me, good or ill. I'll blame other people, perhaps, but it's not their fault whether I feel joyful or sorrowful or unworthy. That's all on me. But I am a beautiful, magnificent creature, whether I recognize it or not. And my purpose here in this body is to shine that understanding on those around me, that you you and everyone are also beautiful and magnificent beings in this physical universe. And as I shine that light, I amplify, I can inspire, I can help uplift. I won't lift up, but I can uplift those around me by influence, by inspiration, by shining light and helping to amplify what is already beautiful and magnificent in each of those around me. That's what co-creation really is, as we flow with the powerful current of our intention. So that's who we are as spiritual beings having this physical human experience. We are strong, flexible, able to endure extremes, and able to uplift those around us. So let's move to the top card, the fire card. Tin. Now tin, do you know what tin is? Probably you do. You've probably at least heard the word. Now, the idea of a tin can is still around. And tin was something that we used to use to package foods in, until we realized that acid and tin in foods causes very unpleasant and unhealthful things. So we've stopped using tin for food, but still, it's a very malleable, very dynamic and useful metal when used appropriately. And so our passion is also malleable and wonderful when used appropriately. And our passion can be used for both good or ill. Have you noticed that? That your passion can either be wonderful passion of joy and exuberance and creativity, and the passion to go out and kill. It is all part of our experience. So our passion can be directed towards the beneficial and directed towards the resistant and angry. And that's all part of our experience. So what is this tin card here reminding us of? It's reminding us of the musicality and the mischievousness of our passions. I love that idea of the musicality, because passion, fire, is a creative thing, and music is also creative. Yeah? Our passions can weave together and create harmonies. Yeah? The musicality of my passions and the musicality of your passions, when they come together to co-create, can produce a beautiful harmony. I love that idea. I love that image. I also love that there's a mischievous elements to our passions, yeah? Yeah? Our passions are playful when they're at their best, like a fire dances, like a candle dances in the breeze, yeah? It's a little bit mischievous, it's playful, it darts around. Now that mischief can be for the good and it can be for the ill. Now, our passions can mischievously mess with people in a way that is harmful. But our passions can also mess with people in a way that is beneficial. Yeah? We can create things for other people that give them joy, that give them an expression of and an experience of love. Our passions can be all of that, and they can be sexual. And sex can be also very playful, in a very loving, spiritual way, and in sometimes a very angry, destructive way. And so we want to be careful which direction our playfulness, our mischievousness is heading towards. Tin is also the card of creating fortune. And that's what we do here in these physical bodies. It is a co-creative experience, certainly, but we create our own fortune and we place it on the powerful current of our intention. Yeah, we place our fortune out there. Our fortune is self-created, and that's what this card is reminding us of. Our passion, our fire, creates our fortune for us. Again, for good or ill. It's self-created. It is also the card of being the muse for others. And when we are experiencing our passion, we can inspire others to burn more brightly. Again, a little bit of an echo of the Beryllium card, yeah? bringing out the virtues of others, being a muse for others. Our passion can be a muse for those around us, influencing them, brightening their fire. Tin is controlled yet playful. And again, we want to be playful, we want to be mischievous, but we want to have control of which direction our mischief, our playfulness is going. Playfulness within constructive, healthful boundaries is beautiful and wonderful. Have you seen children playing within a safe area, and the joy and the wonder and the discovery of all of that? That's all fire, passion. And then outside of those controlled areas, they can get into trouble, dangerous trouble to themselves. Yeah? Playing out in traffic, for example, is not a good idea. Yeah? We want to have some control of where and when we are playful and how we are playful. So control. Tin reminds us to control our fire because we don't want to burn so hot that we consume everything and sputter out. Peter out. It's also the card of the revolutionary. And our fire, we came to be revolutionary. Evolution is revolutionary. Yeah, there is a certain element of conservation that we want. We want to conserve, yet also evolve. We evolve from what we are conserving. And that's evolution. And that's the fire element of this tin in us. We can be absolutely revolutionary in our passions. So, tin for our fire. Wonderful. Muse for others. Playful. Within control, within confines, within limits. And revolutionary. So let's move from that fire element to its partner, the water, which is the depth and the emotions. Okay, here we go with water. Sorry, we had a little bit of an interruption there. Water, titanium. And titanium is now what do we see? We see a person, holding a large object. And that's sometimes how we experience our emotions. Yeah? Sometimes our emotions feel like a burden, but that's not what this card is really reminding us of. Titanium is the card of the loyal workhorse. It's the card of the team player. So when we are open to our emotions, when we are open to the depth of who we are here ready and happy to co-create with each other. And that's what this team player idea is. When we are open, when we are non-resistant and feeling the joy and love of living, then we are open to co-creating with each other. And that's what this team player element is. It's also the card of the caregiver. Yeah? We're here to be of service to one another. Not in a conscripted service, but in a service of love and compassion. We are caregivers. We are here, and part of our co-creative work in this physical plane is to care for one another. Because we know that other is us. There is no other. We are all one. And as we care for ourselves, we care for other. It's the card that enhances life and protects. Now, remember, in the tin card, in the beryllium card, we amplify the virtues of others. Here we enhance the experience of others emotionally. And we protect each other because we're not always open to the powerful flow of our intention. We are sometimes having a negative experience. And at those times, we benefit from the care of others. Not someone who's going to come in and fix it for us, but someone who's going to help buffer us so that we can fix it for ourselves. And that's what a good caregiver does. A good caregiver creates space for us to heal. Helps create a buffer around us for us to heal. And that's what this card is reminding of us of emotionally. We can be that buffer for each other. It's also a very interesting card of the non-ego-based path cutter. Now, let's think of this. This is water. And remember, water, it cuts. Water, when it comes to an obstacle as it's flowing, does one of two things. In some ways, simultaneously, it will find a path around, but it will also start drilling its way through. Path cutting. And it's not path cutting because it wants to show everybody how magnificent it is. It's not trailblazing because it's got on an ego trip of, look at me, look at what I'm doing. It's blazing a trail for itself and others to be able to move more freely. And that's who we are. That's who we are as the deep water element. Yeah, our unconscious, our emotions are not ego-based. That's all head trip. And when we're in our water element, in our non-resistant water element, we care for each other. And we open paths for ourselves and for each other. Not to show off, but because we are here to co-create. And we know that other people will open trails for us to flow through as well. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a magnificent thing. And now we're going to move to the left, to the air suit. And air is runium. Runium. And we see a person holding what looks like it might be a ball. It might just be a circle or a plate, but it looks to me like a ball. And they look like they're kind of dancing. To me, one foot's up, yeah? They're looking a little bit like this. I don't want to go out of camera, out of range of the shot, but you get this kind of gesture here, a playful dancing gesture. And that's what our minds are when they are open and non-ego-based. Playful. Runium is avant-garde yet determined. Avant-garde. New, fresh. That's what our minds can do. And that's what we came here to do. We came into this physical existence to be part of the engine of evolution. And that is part of the beauty of what we can do with our minds, our thoughts, and our communicative abilities. We can be part of the engine of evolution, of expansion and creation. And this card, this runium, reminds us that we are here to be the new. Yes, we want to conserve what we have, but the conservation is only a platform for us to jump from into the new, into the avant-garde, to the fresh, the delightful, the new experience, the new creation. But it's also determined. Not determined in a stubborn way, but determined like the powerful flow of intention is also determined. Have you noticed? Have you thought about that? Your intention is determined, like the flow of water is determined. It is going to keep moving with gravity or moving with the force of the moon. It's going to keep moving because it's determined, not stubborn. There's a big difference between determined and stubborn. Stubborn. I'm going to do it no matter what anybody says, no matter what happens, I'm going to do it. Now that's a very resistant state. Determined is not resistant. Determined is able to flow around things, but it keeps on track to what it has decided. allowing a new decision to move the direction of the flow of intention to something else. Yeah? It's not unable to shift, but after it has shifted, it is determined to keep going in that direction. So, avant-garde, the fresh, the new, and determined to follow that fresh and new path that perhaps has been blazed, has been opened up by our intuition, by our water element. And also, it's the card of the prophet and the mystic, which often I would think of as the water element, right? The unconscious prophecy and mysticism arise from the deep wells, from the deep ocean of our unconscious. But here we have it as a reminder of our air suit, of our mind and our communication. So, prophecy that has not been communicated is meaningless. Mysticism that does not include our minds is perhaps meaningless in this physical universe. We communicate, we think about, we ruminate on our mysticism. And it's also fed by the fire of our passion and the water of our emotions and unconscious, but it's also a mental activity. And our minds, when informed by our prophecy, by our mysticism, are so much more powerful. It's a card of the rule breaker. Now, our minds create the rules, and our minds are able to break through the rules. Now, there are some rules, of course, that are beneficial. There are some rules that we want to keep, like don't kill each other. That's a really good rule. But there are other rules. There are rules that, for example, we had 100 years ago. Yeah, social norms. Those kinds of rules that we have evolved past, that we're ready to break through is as part of our avant-garde selves. Now, breaking the rules, those kinds of rules, the rules that were meant to be broken in our evolution. That's all mind. That's all part of our communicative ability. It's also the card of joie de vivre. Joie de vivre, the joy of life. And our thoughts help us create that joie de vivre. Our thoughts create our experience in this universe. And they can create either painful, negative, tragic experiences or joie de vivre. We can choose to think about the abundance, the wonder, the joy, the beauty of this universe and experience the joy as we follow those non-resistant thoughts. Runium, the avant-garde prophet and mystic that breaks rules and enjoys life. That is all where we can direct our thoughts as eternal, spiritual, non-physical beings having this physical experience as humans. So we got the passion, we got the water, the unconscious and the emotions, we got the mind and spirit all nicely defined, and then we get to the physicality of our lives. And this is often where we go astray. And we go astray perhaps because our minds have taken us off into the weeds, because our passions have followed our negative thoughts, because our emotions have followed our negative thoughts. But often our physical experience is not what it could be. And that's what this silicon card is reminding us of. And this is the other card that was in the spread from last week, silicon. The silicon is we see a feminine, female-looking figure resting on an orb with gold in her hand. She's got a gold disc in her hand, but she's not looking at that gold disc in her hand. I'm sorry, the gold disc is over here. She's looking over there. And this is a card of a frustrated quest. Silicon in this deck is on a frustrated quest to be like carbon. Because carbon is life. Carbon is creative. Carbon is appreciated and loved by everyone, and Silicon feels a little bit jealous, according to this deck. And oftentimes we get into that space. Now, the grass is always greener on the other side. We look to other people as perhaps our role models, and instead of just taking the beneficial inspiration from them, we compare ourselves to them and say, I want to be that. But we can't be that. We don't want to be that. We want to be this. I want to be this, not that. Oftentimes we want to enter the sphere of somebody else and assume that life, and that is not us. And when we try to do that, we push ourselves into the negative realm, into the resistant state of not being ourselves, but trying to be something that we are not. Because we think other people expect us to be something else, because we think we are jealous of what somebody else has created or has become, for so many reasons. Have you ever found yourself jealous or envious of somebody else's existence, or felt that you had to become something else to be accepted and felt and appreciated as worthy by somebody else? All of those things are this Silicon card. Wanting to be what we are not, instead of fully discovering who we are, what our talents are. Being informed by others, certainly we learn. We learn from others. But we don't want, when we try to become others, we get into big trouble. And that's what this card is trying to remind us of. We want to be us, fully evolving us, knowing that us now is not the same as us 10 years from now, and us 10 years from now is going to be have benefited from us now. Our evolved selves are benefiting from us now. And so we want to appreciate ourselves for who we are, what we are, right now, in this present moment. So friends, that's what this oracle card setup is trying to remind us of. The beauty of us as spiritual beings, as beryllium, strong and flexible, enduring extremes that perhaps we don't need to endure, but here, enduring them, and able to amplify the beauty of others. And also, from below the water, able to help and care for each other, and blaze a path, open up a path for each other. Not trying to take credit for it, but just doing it because that's who we are. And mentally, being able to enjoy where we are, who we are, breaking rules, being playful, and being careful of not trying to be other than we are not, because that's one of our biggest traps. So friends, we've got 4 questions being asked of this spread. Let's move on to those questions. The first question is, what if I didn't worry? Isn't that a beautiful question? Because when we move sometimes into that, remember, the Silicon aspect of our negative potential, often it's because we're worried. Yeah? We're worried that we're not going to be as magnificent as the person we're looking at. That we're not going to achieve what we want to achieve or experience what we want to experience. So what if I didn't worry is a perfect beginning question to this central spread of oracle cards, I believe. Don't you? So what if I didn't worry? Do you worry? Are you one of the rare people who never worries? If you are, let me know in the comments below. I want to pick your brain. I want to interact with you. I'd like to learn from you. Most people that I know worry at one point or another in either the day, the week, the month, or the year. Worrying is part of the human experience, I believe. It doesn't necessarily need to be, but it is. And we have two cards being the answer to this question. One is the High Priestess, beautiful card, one of my favorite High Priestess cards, and the other is the Ten of Cups. For some people, the Ten of Cups is actually a challenging card, which was surprising to me until I understood that some people saw the Ten of Cups as an unattainable goal. And so I noticed that my understanding of the Ten of Cups is a little bit different from some other people's understanding of the Ten of Cups. So we'll get into that in just a moment. But you will notice in this set of tarot cards that we've got a lot of what are often called either the majors or the triumphi. We've got a lot of the major arcana answering these questions. So I don't want to say that this spread is more important because of that, because I don't personally believe that the major arcana is more important than the minor arcana. They're just focused in different directions. And the direction that the major arcana directs answers to is generally broader topics, more adjectival topics, whereas the minor arcana is more nouns to me. If you could understand, if that makes sense to you. But so we've got a lot of the major arcana answering the questions here, and we've got the High Priestess, one of my favorite cards in all decks, and this particular image of the High Priestess is one of my favorite High Priestesses that exists. And the High Priestess, you see her sitting on her stone throne. I'll call it a throne. It looks like a throne to me. And she's got one bare foot lightly touching the water. And I like this because instead of being a common gatekeeper kind of image, she looks like she is showing us who we are. She's not guarding something from us. She's showing us that we can dip our feet into the waters of the unconscious. We don't want to necessarily dive in quite yet, but we can dip our toes in and feel around, check the temperature of the water, as it were. So this is the card of intuition. It's the card of sacred knowledge. So what if I didn't worry? I have access to my intuition. I have access to my sacred knowledge, which we all have. You have a deep well of sacred knowledge within you. You do. I do. Everyone does. Because we are eternal, non-physical beings having these human experiences. That's who we are. We have that. And it's our worrying that cuts us off from all of that wisdom. It's the card of the divine feminine. And I don't bring this aspect up with the High Priestess often, but I think a lot of us cut ourselves off from our divine feminine. Male bodies, female bodies, transgendered bodies, non-binary bodies, all of our bodies have the divine feminine within. And feminine masculine is not a dichotomy, it's a spectrum. And in that spectrum is the divine feminine. Just as there's the divine hermaphrodite and the divine masculine. And often when we worry, we jump over to the divine masculine and of control, of creating structure. But if we're not worried, if we're open, we have so much more access to our divine feminine. no matter what body we're inhabiting, whether we're inhabiting a male body or a female body or an othered body. We have more access to the divine feminine when we don't worry. And the divine feminine is the water divine. You know, it's the liquid divine. It's the card of the subconscious mind, which if we weren't so worried about it, we wouldn't be scared of it so much. And I think the only reason we need to be scared of our unconscious is our negative thoughts. If we're able to clear away, allow the negative thoughts to pass us by, when we're in that open space, then there's no need to be afraid of the subconscious, of the unconscious. We can receive what is there. It's the card of premonition and clairvoyance, because all of that comes from our inner eye, which is part of that water element. And perceptivity, being able to see, feel, experience, emotionally and through all of our senses. Now that's all our high priestess, our ability to know and understand. And we can do that when we are not worried. And then right next to her, she's almost looking towards this. Another water card, the Ten of Cups. And on this card, we have the rainbow. We've got the cups up in the rainbow. And we've got what looks like maybe a dove, maybe a seagull. I can't be sure what kind of a white bird it is. But a white bird flying high below the rainbow. A card of divine love. And if we weren't worried, we would experience that. We would experience the divine love that is always ever present. We would experience harmony. To me, the Ten of Cups is harmony and happiness and joy. Not inaccessible, unattainable joy, but joy, daily joy. The joy of being happy in our bodies. Being happy in our bodies with other bodies. The joy of alignment and felicity. And it's also the card of being able to share that joy with others. That's what the 10 means to me. The 10 isn't the pinnacle. I guess it is a pinnacle, but not like some unattainable kind of enlightenment that we sometimes perceive this card as being. But rather having enough to be able to share, having enough joy to be able to share, having enough love to be able to share, to be able to uplift others, to be able to do the beryllium, to amplify the virtues of others. And that's what I think this Ten of Cups card reminds us of. That we've got enough positive emotion here to be able to share and uplift others. Not drag them up by their heels, but uplift them. Like water will help other people float and rise. As long as they're not struggling and sinking, they will rise with the water that we can help provide for them. That emotional water. And that's one way that we can influence others, by sharing joy, by sharing love. Not forcing it on others, but letting it out there, letting it go and allowing them to accept it. And recognizing that we can't force them to accept it. And not worrying about whether they're accepting it or not. Because when we start worrying about, are they accepting it? Are they being uplifted or being drowned by my love? Then we are in a resistant state and we're not doing the Ten of Cups anymore. No one will drown in love that is freely given. We only drown people in love when we try to bury them in it, in a very resistant, not loving way. But offering love freely and allowing that love to lift others is a beautiful thing. Also knowing that if they don't accept it, it'll just pass them by. It's not going to drown other people. We only drown other people when we put them in boxes and then dump water over them. Now, to constrict, confine, and then demand that they receive our love is not really love. And that's an answer of what if I were worrying a lot? But this Ten of Cups is open love, open joy, open appreciation, gratitude. So that's what we can do if we weren't worried. Yeah? We'd have access to our own water, and we'd be able to pour our water out on others. All very loving, very intuitive, very divine, very feminine. Let's take a look at the second question. The second question is, what am I hoping for? And what a perfect second question it is. Yeah? Going from what if I weren't worried, so moving from not worrying to hoping. Perfect progression. And what do we get? We get the Judgment card and the Star card. Now the Judgment card is actually an air card, but the Star card is water. So we got more water flowing through this spread, don't we? Both of them major arcana. And what am I hoping for? I am hoping for not judgment. To me, judgment is the card of rebirth. As you see these people rising up from the tombs of their resistance, of their negative emotions, of their death, their self-imposed death. Being called by their non-physical beings to rise up from the coffins that they have placed themselves in. It's a card of rebirth. So if I weren't worried and I'm beginning to hope, I would be reborn. I would awaken to who I am and where I am, and awaken to how I am essentially divine love, divine joy, divine well-being, and pure awareness. I am all of that. And I hope for that. I hope for that inner calling, which is always there. It is always there. We only don't hear it because we are resisting it. It's the card of epiphany. And every moment can be an epiphany if we're open to it. It's a card of spiritual realization. And again, every moment can be a spiritual realization if we are open to it. Because that's who we are. We are realized spirit, are we not? We are spirit realized in this manifested physical form. And then we have the star right next to it. Yeah, so we're called up and out of our graves, and then we bathe in the water of hope, of faith, of optimism and purpose. And that's another thing we hope for. After we have been awoken from the dream and sleep of our resistance, after we have awoken, we want to bathe in our natural hope, our natural faith in the direction that we're going with a powerful current of intention. We hope to awake to our innate optimism and our sense of purpose, because this is not the water card, but the star card. I mean, I love in this deck how the star card has the woman completely immersed in her water, bathing in a water of hope, but able to see the star, her direction, the way she's going to go. She has purpose. She has her North Star to see and follow. And that's the star card. We hope for that after we've awoken to have a direction to go in. It's a card of renewal. Part of that awakening and epiphany is renewal, becoming new again, more fully new again, spiritually new again. It's a card of inspiration to inspire ourselves as we inspire others, as we are the muse for others. Now remember, we are the muse for others in the tin card, in our passions. We are the muse for others, but we're also the muse for ourselves in our hope, in our star card. And that's what we are hoping for. And all of it is available to us when we are open to it. Do you hear the call? Do you hear the call of your own spirit calling to you? And English is such a clunky language in that way. Your own spirit. You don't own your spirit does not own you. You are the same. There's no separation. You are spirit here having this experience. So it's not like you own that spirit. That's not your spirit, something separate calling you from afar. But do you hear the fullness of yourself calling to this portion of yourself that is physically focused in this body here? Because it's always calling. It is always calling. It's not waiting for you to get ready. It's always calling. And hope is always available to us if we learn how to open to it. Let's take a look at the third question. The sun has finally come from beyond the clouds, and it looks like it might be going away again. So I'm sorry for the shift of light in this video. What do we get? The third question. What do I love about myself? Beautiful question. What do you love about yourself? Really, what do you love about yourself? That's such an important question to be able to answer. And here we have two cards which show us a shadow aspect, I believe. Because sometimes we love things about ourselves that are not the best. There's so much to love about ourselves. Yeah? We are the high priestess having a 10 of cups experience. We are the angel calling ourselves from the tombs and refreshing in the sea, the warm, buoyant sea of hope and faith. But sometimes we love things about ourselves that are not that great. And we see this in these two cards. And the kernel of the not so great part is the Five of Swords. And in this card we see two swords looking like they're stuck in the sand and three swords kind of floating above the sand. And this is an echo to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, where there's a guy holding these three swords and there are two guys walking off in defeat, and it's aggressive success in conflict. Five of Swords is the card of mental, verbal conflict, of disagreements and competition, of lashing out and conquering, being the mental and verbal conqueror of others, winning at all costs, cunning and Machiavellian desires, not to win, to be better than, to beat down, to eviscerate verbally and mentally, eviscerate our opponents. And oftentimes we love that about ourselves, especially when we are the victors, when we feel like we're winning, when we're on top of things, when we have cut everybody open, when we have vindicated ourselves. Whether we're right or wrong, We love how clever we've been, how we have cut somebody down to size. How we have come from the battlefield victorious, our mental and verbal swords dripping with blood. A lot of times we love that about ourselves. And pair it with the next card, the Six of Wands. We see a person with their horse holding a wand with a laurel wreath. Because we leave the arena of battle, verbal and communicative and mental battle, victorious, success and victory, public recognition, being exalted and receiving tributes for the magnificence of our blade work. And we love that about ourselves. Think of the political battles that we've been fighting recently. Who's right? Who's better? We lash out at each other in so many spheres, online and in person. And we secretly love that about ourselves, how we walk away the victors. And that is not who we are. That is not who we are. That is not the person who has heard the call and bathed in faith and hope. That is not the person who has come to be clever and revolutionary and avant-garde. Have you ever noticed yourself patting yourself on the back for some conflict? Not physical conflict, but, well, maybe physical conflict, but a mental conflict or a mental conflict where you needed to prove yourself right and you felt like you did. You beat that other person down. Have you ever felt that? I know I have. And we puff ourselves up after that. But it was an experience of pain on both sides. It was an experience of conflict, and conflict in this sense is not who we are. It's the card of silicon, trying to beat down carbon and take its place. That's not who we are, but sometimes we love that about ourselves. And this is one answer that we want to set aside. We want to learn how to set it aside. Not by holding ourselves as, not by browbeating ourselves, not by cursing ourselves, not by causing ourselves pain for the pain we caused each other. Because frankly, we have learned to do this from other people, and it's become habit. We don't want to blame the people who taught us either. We don't want to blame the people who brought us to this point of being the gladiators that we've become. However, we want to learn how to put down our swords. Our swords of battle. And pick up the sword of loving justice. Not justice of war, but the justice of love. The justice not of beating other people down, but lifting other people. Not by pointing out how wrong you are, but by pointing out how right everything else is. That's who we are. We didn't come here to point out who is wrong and who is right about topics. We came here to uplift and love everybody to the purest expression of who they are. Not try to crack them open with our swords, but try to lift them up with our love. That's who we came here to be. That's who we are. We've learned some very negative techniques out of fear and fear. Fear that the negative is going to overwhelm us. So we fight it back with our swords. But the negative is not going to overwhelm us. Not if we are open to who we really are. The negative is not going to overwhelm us. We will rise above. That's the direction that evolution is pointing us towards, rising above. And maybe sometimes we become impatient. It's not rising above quickly enough. There are still things out there that we believe we need to eliminate. And it's the way we address those things that we want to think about right now. Are we going to go out and cut people open? Or are we going to go out and heal? Are we going to go out and prove ourselves right? Or are we going to go out and uplift the right? Which part of ourselves do we really want to love? I think the next question is going to help answer that. So let's move on to the fourth question. This fourth question is wonderful. What am I responsible for? What are we responsible for? We are responsible for ourselves, really. We are responsible for ourselves and then for each other, but primarily we are responsible for ourselves. And if we take responsibility for ourselves and we fully become ourselves, we will naturally care for others. It's who we are. As open beings flowing with our intention, we care for others. So our first responsibility, our primary responsibility, is to ourselves, to opening ourselves, to setting down our weapons of mass destruction and opening ourselves to who we truly are. And we do that in two ways. And we've got two major arcana cards here answering that question. One is the Hermit and one is the Fool. And you're probably asking yourself, the Hermit? How am I opening myself up to other by being the Hermit? Well, because the Hermit, here we see a person of age with a walking stick cloaked, looking at the Fool. Yeah, not looking away. They are, in a sense, facing each other, looking at each other, integrating with each other. But let's look at the Hermit first. The Hermit is the card of soul searching, of introspection and inner guidance, and that. And yes, it's the card of soul searching, inner guidance, and introspection. And we're responsible for that. We're responsible for our self-discovery, for our own actualization, as Abraham Maslow said. Our actualization as fully fledged, individuated, a Jungian term, beings is our responsibility. For opening ourselves up and evolving, that is our responsibility. And that's who the Hermit is. The one who looks within to find out, to discover who he, she, or they are. It's a card of wisdom, which we were born with. We as babies are wise. And then we get distracted by other stuff. But we are still wise. We have that within. It's a card of mentorship and erudition. So we have that wisdom, but that wisdom is not a self-contained thing. If we are open, we share the wisdom that we have learned. We share what we have discovered and mentor those around us. It's a card of erudition as well, the mental function of learning. Because some of that study is actually study. Because the more we learn of vocabulary and information, the more that what we feel from inside makes more sense, and the more easily we can express what we have discovered, the wisdom, the innate wisdom that we have. Yeah? Our innate wisdom can come out, but we still are benefited by broad knowledge to be able to express that wisdom. So that's where erudition comes into that introspection. Yeah? Being able to communicate and express broadly, creatively. It helps if we do the studying. It's also the card of being alone. And carving out space for ourselves to be alone is also part of our responsibility. Whether we're what Jung would say an extrovert or an introvert, or we are an extroverting or introverting at this time, still an extrovert needs to have alone time. An extrovert is powered by interaction with others, but still needs to have alone time. An introvert needs to have outside time as well, but is responsible for keeping their alone time as well. We need to have alone time to do that introspection, to do that self-exploration. And that's our responsibility. And then to bring that out into the world. And share, and mentor, and lead by example. And then we want to also face our inner fool. Now the fool is often seen as starting a new journey. And we're responsible for that new journey. We're responsible for beginnings. We're responsible for our spontaneity. Every moment of every day. This isn't like the end of a cycle, the beginning of a cycle, the end of a cycle, the beginning of a cycle. However, rather, this is reminding us that we are responsible for creating a new beginning of every moment of every day, because there is no future, there is no past, there is only the eternal now and now and now. And each now is new and fresh. And we're responsible for experiencing the new and fresh journey of every moment of every day. You see in this card a young person chasing a butterfly. That ingenue feeling of innocence and chasing butterflies and chasing spirit and reveling in the beauty of what is right now. It's innocence and spontaneity and the eternal beginner's mind. And we are also responsible for that. With all of the learning, with all of the wisdom that we discover within ourselves, we don't come out and say, okay, I am now the wise one. Rather, we come out and say, I am the eternal learner. I am the eternal child here in this physical universe. No matter what number we put on these bodies, whether we put the number of 6 years on this body, or 66 years on this body, or 660 years on this body, we are the eternal child. And we're responsible for that. It's not something that's going to happen naturally. We're responsible for keeping that part of ourselves alive. As we do the introspection, we also do the playful exploration of what is, because that is the reason we came into these bodies, into this physical universe, is to explore and enjoy and revel and discover out here as well. As we rediscover what is in here, we explore what is out there. And that dichotomy, those two aspects of ourselves, in interaction and dynamic balance, the dynamic balance of beryllium, is who we are and what we are responsible for. And if we can fulfill that, we will have it all. We will have and be it all. And we'll move freely with the powerful flow of our intention. So do you see how beautiful this spread is? How we discussed who we are as spirit in these bodies. Free, open, flexible, powerful. Muse for others, lifting others up. Working for and with others, not for recognition, but for the joy of working with and for and in concert with each other's. The musicality, the harmony of all that. And then we move through not worrying and being open to who we are and sharing that. And what we're hoping for the call from where we have put ourselves into hope and faith. And recognizing that we sometimes love the negative parts of ourselves, and we can set that aside and be responsible for doing the inner work and doing the outer work of play. Being the wise one who is eternally a child. Being the hermit who is always a fool. And the fool who is always a hermit. That's who we are in these bodies, in this physical realm. And it's beautiful, and it's lovely, and it's wonderful, and I'm trying to discover that for myself, and I hope this has helped you remember who you are a little bit more clearly. So friends, if you do find some benefit from this, remember to hit the like button. Yeah, smash that button. Yeah, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and hit the alarm so that you're notified when I upload videos. Share this with anybody who you think might get benefit from it, not forcing it on them, but allowing it to go out into the universe. And comment below. I'd love to hear from you. What has resonated with you? For what has triggered you in some way? I'd like to discuss that as well. And remember, in just a moment, there will be information about the decks that I used in this spread. So friends, I reach out to you, reach out back to me. Let's talk. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.